Hey everybody, thank you for joining me for Tuesday Talks. Today I wanted to talk about what was different for me the last time that I finally figured out how to lose the weight, lose the diabetes, lose the liver disease, and keep it off. So that would have been about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. I started down a journey. I didn't know if I was going to be successful or not. And I ended up losing 150 pounds, give or take 10 pounds. And took me 2 years and 3 months to lose it. And then I've been keeping it off ever since. So that's about 3 years now. So, I just thought maybe it would be helpful for me to share with you what was different for me the time that it actually clicked and started working. Because the truth of the matter is I had tried a lot of things. Like I had tried Weight Watchers 3 or 4 times. I did in person and online. I did the grapefruit diet, the military diet, cabbage soup diet. Oh, the gas. What else did I do? I tried MyFitnessPal. I tried MyFitnessPal no less than 3 times before it worked for me. So for those of people that say to me, MyFitnessPal tracking, it doesn't work for me. It didn't work for me either. It was a shift up here that really happened and made the difference. So I tried MyFitnessPal. I had had multiple gym memberships. I had tried all of those sorts of things. I even became a fitness instructor in 2006 and was teaching 3 to 4 classes a week. It was a lower impact type of exercise, but it was group fitness, so I was regularly active. I felt like I had tried almost everything. And so what was different the time that it all clicked were a couple of things. So the first thing for me was I realized that as long as I did not give up, I was not failing. It didn't matter if my weight didn't change, my size didn't change, I still had to be on the diabetes medication. As long as I was still trying to figure it out, then I was going to consider that not failing because I was still learning. I was getting closer every single time. I would try something new. I was really honing in on what I needed to do to create my best health. So that was the first thing. The next thing for me was I threw a time limit out the window. So, we always read that with SMART goals, they should be time bound, our goals, right? And so that's what the prevailing wisdom is. And I get it, right? Like you set a goal and you say, I'm going to write a book. Well, if you don't set a time goal, you're never going to write the book because then you can't work backwards and break it down into how much you should be writing every day. But this is what I realized with the weight thing was, while we may have goals to improve our health, there is no ending, right? So when we get to our goal weight, it's not like we can just stop doing the things that we're doing because then the weight's just going to come back. Like if we go back to the way we were eating before, this is why diets don't work. Diets don't work at all. Because so what? We eat in this very prescribed way for weeks, months, a year. We lose the weight and then we're like, oh, let's check out potatoes again, and kabam. No. So once I figured out this is from now on, there is no urgency, there is no rush. This is not a race. I am not going to do this for a particular event. I am not going to do this for bikini season. I'm just going to make an effort every single day. And if I do that, then I am not failing, and B, I will get there eventually. So that was the other thing. That was a real mindset shift for me because prior to that, it was like, well, I got to lose the weight because I'm going to see some family and I want to show up and be like, hey, look at me. Or I need to lose the weight. Otherwise, I'm not going to feel confident enough dating. And so, plus they probably don't want me the way that I am, which I look back at now and think how ridiculous that is. But that's another Tuesday talk, yeah? So I got rid of the time limit. I gave myself permission to take as much time as I needed, because guess what? The time passes anyways. And I realized if I took small steps every single day, then in a year, 2 years, I'd be so much further ahead. Have you seen that quote before that is like, your future self will thank you, or in 3 months, you'll wish you started now, or whatever, right? So I just thought, what else do I have to do? I might as well take steps every day. I realized that anything that left me feeling hungry was not going to be sustainable. So I made sure that I ate until I was satisfied, and I fed myself well. I really did realize that that was a key component, because guess what? In the military diet, I was starving. I was cranky. I was mean. With the, all of these things, even with Weight Watchers, because Weight Watchers is a great plan for some people. But for me, I was like, okay, wait a second. So you're telling me that if I like save up my points all week, like a little bit, that I can just go to town at the end of the week? And that didn't set up a very healthy attitude towards nourishing myself. So for me, it didn't work. Weight Watchers works beautifully for some people, but for me, it didn't work for that reason. So I couldn't be hungry. And that's what led me to learn more about how hunger works in the first place, which I've talked a bit about. And that's when I realized I just needed to be eating all the fruits and vegetables, like all of them. And that really helped. The next thing that was different this time is I really realized the power that language has. So this showed up in a couple of ways for me. So the first thing was I replaced all of I can't and I have to with I choose to. So I am choosing to go for a walk tonight before I sit down and watch a movie is different than I have to go for a walk. So what that did is that communicated to me that this is a choice that I'm making, but it also communicated to my family and my friends around me that this was a choice that I was making. Because if you say, I have to somebody that loves you, say, well, you don't have to. And then that gives you a reason to just kind of sit down. But the truth is I didn't have to. The truth is I was choosing. And so making sure that we're really, really looking at our language and how we talk about things, right? If there was, if I would go to somebody's home and they had dessert and I was choosing that day not to have dessert, in the past, I would say, I can't have that, or I shouldn't have it. No. The truth is I can. Whether I should or not is questionable. I don't like shutting on myself or others, but I was choosing not to. And in choosing not to in that moment, I was choosing to no longer have diabetes eventually, and to live a healthier life, where I was able to be more active and have more energy and get off of that diabetes medication. So it really was a choice, and I really was making it. And that was empowering. Like when I realized that I get to choose, and when I then vocalize that for myself and for others, it was a game changer. So think about it. How are you talking about these things even to yourself? Like, I have to sit down and track my food. No, you don't. You could choose, like whatever you don't change, you choose. There's a good one. I really like that one. I'm going to share some of my favorite quotes with you at the end. That's one of my favorite ones, because I was like, whoa. So you're saying that if I don't change what I'm doing, then I'm choosing to stay the way that I am right now. I don't know that I want to choose that, which means I need to choose something different. But really talking about it in those terms, instead of I have to, I can't, I should, I better, I can't have that because I didn't work out. No, I'm going to choose to pass on that tonight because I wasn't very active today. I did a lot of computer work, whatever. I'll have it next time, right? So language is important. And the other thing in terms of language is, how are we talking to ourselves about ourselves, right? So I was really, really good at being hard on myself. Oh, you need to try harder. You need more willpower, blah, blah, blah. That didn't get me anywhere. Like for decades, that didn't get me anywhere. You know what did? Saying things to myself like, you're doing your very best today, and the best is all that you can ask of yourself. Keep going. Hey, good job. Stuff like that. Like I would actually, in the beginning, when I would do something like, go through the Starbucks drive-through, where before I might have had, like maybe I went in, I'm like, I really want a cookie. The cookies are so good. And instead, or I really want a fancy latte with the syrup or whatever. And instead, this is what you're going to say. You are going to say, I would please like to have my healthier choice, which would be, say, a double tall almond milk latte, for example. That's my order. Then as I was pulling up to the window, I would be like, good for you for not getting that cookie. Because you know what? No one else was patting me on the back. I was the only one that could do that. It seems cheesy, but you know what? It works. But also just, if there was a day that went sideways and I overate or I sat around too much, it's like, it's okay. You have another chance tomorrow. Which leads me to the next one. I realized I had an unlimited pack of do-overs. I could do over as many times as I needed to. The only thing that I promised myself is that I was going to take the do-over. I wasn't going to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I wasn't going to just throw my hands up in the air and say I give up, because that would be failing. And I don't like failing, because I had decided that I'm not failing if I keep going. Even if sometimes things are upside down, that doesn't matter, because I haven't given up. So that's, so my do-overs, I took them. Sometimes it was the next day. Sometimes I needed a week. There were some things that I've shared with you guys. We've been through some tough times over here. And you know what? That first week that my husband was in the hospital, I needed a lot of do-overs, but I wasn't ready to take my do-over for about a week or two. So until I was ready. There are some days though, where it's like today is National Donut Day. I'm like, well, do-over starts at supper, right? Strong start, good workout. Do-over starts at the very next meal. It can be the next minute, the next day, the next week. Maybe you need a month. It's okay to cruise. It's okay to rest. And then you pick back up when you're ready. The do-over. Yeah? And then the last thing was that I stopped looking at people who were healthy as just being naturally gifted with being healthy, and opened my mind to the possibility that they were working at it. And started looking at them with curiosity to see what they were doing differently than I was, because clearly they were doing something differently than I was. Like before, if I would see a really fit woman that was about the same age as me, I would be like, wow, you're just blessed with great genes. I bet everybody in your family is thin. You probably don't even have to work at it. And then I was like, wait a second. I don't know her story or his story. I don't know. Maybe she's lost a bunch of weight. And I wasn't looking at people who do this, right? Like I wasn't looking at somebody who was at a healthy weight, optimal health for 5 minutes and then rebounded. I was looking at the people who they were active. Well, they were probably always active. They probably grew up being active. They were probably on a soccer team. I was never on a soccer team, right? Like that's what I used to think. And I was like, maybe she was like you 6 months ago, or a year ago, or 10 years ago. And she's doing something differently. Number one, we got to figure out what that is. Number two, maybe she works at it every day. Maybe every day she has to get up and put in effort. I don't know. Yeah, so that was the other thing, as I was like, and now being on the flip side of it, I get that often. People that didn't know me before, they're like, well, you're obviously the long and lean type. And I'm like, oh, they're like, you probably don't have to worry about anything you eat. I'm like, I actually measure on my portions. I track everything I eat, 1,600 days and counting. I make an effort every day. That's how I treat my obesity every day. So that was the other thing. I really got curious about what those people were doing. Didn't always work for me. I'd sometimes be like, I don't like that. That's not going to work for me. Because not everything that works for everyone, like what I do, may not work for you. Parts of it might. Research tells us that parts of what I do might, but parts of it may not. So that's why we got to pick and choose. That's why we need the do-overs. And that's why we just got to keep trying. So now let me share my favorite quotes with you, because I love quotes. I love inspirational quotes. I would sometimes put them as the background on my phone. And every time I picked up my phone, I would see it. And when I would stop noticing it, I would change it to a different one because our brains do that. But here's a couple of my favorites. So, and all of these are like randos on the Google machine. They're not from anyone famous. They're not from Oprah Winfrey or anything like that. At least not that was source. So I do apologize if anybody knows the source of any of these quotes. I would really love to know who they are. But one of them is, you are always one decision away from having a completely different life. I liked that. I'm gonna read that again. You are always one decision away from a completely different life. So I love that one. I also loved this one. May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. That made me think for a while, because I had to think, what are my hopes? What are my fears? And what are my choices reflecting right now? Yeah? I love this one too. Beautiful girl, you were made to do hard things, so believe in yourself. We are capable of so much more than we could possibly imagine. This is why I love working in health and fitness, because there is nothing like hearing from participants, never in a million years did I think that I could do that. And I did. There is nothing, whether it is coming down on the floor, whether it is doing one push-up, whether it is losing 3 pounds, whatever it might be. Like when a participant or one of my clients says to me, I did something I thought I could never do, that hits me right here, because I get that. I feel that. If anybody told me that I would be doing now what I'm doing physically, work-wise, etc., I would have never believed them. I would have never believed that I would be able to do all the burpees I do. But you know how I did it? One step at a time. All of it. That's all we have to do. I love this one too. Mistakes are proof you are trying. Yes. Mistakes are magic. Mistakes are magic, because that is how we know what's working and what's not working. It proves to ourselves and to the universe that this is important to us. It's important enough to us that we were brave enough to try and then fell flat on our face. And then brave enough to stand up again, brush ourselves off, and keep going. Mistakes are magic. All right. This is one of my favorites, and I've posted it a few times, and it's actually what brought me to my little, my love of turtles. I have a small little collection of turtles in my office. And so the quote is, she knew where she wanted to go, and she came to trust that steps rather than speed were the way to get there. Yes. This goes back to the whole speed thing. There is no rush. There is no rush. We're going to get older. Time is going to pass anyways. And even if you start today, even if you don't get to where you want to go, buy the cruise, buy the wedding, buy the whatever, what if you were halfway there or a quarter of the way there? How would that be different? Steps over speed. I'm going to read that one more time, because that is like one of my all-time favorites. She knew where she wanted to go and came to trust that steps rather than speed were the way to get there. Love that. And what I'm going to leave you with is this is my last quote, and I thought it wrapped things up nicely. So, eat like you love yourself. Move like you love yourself. Speak like you love yourself. Act like you love yourself. I know that's not an easy thing to ask you to do, but I wonder what would happen if you tried, just for a little while, to eat, move, speak, and act like you love yourself. Might be interesting to find out, yeah? So that's what was different for me this time. And all of these things, I practice them all the time, every single day. I'm still a work in progress. I will probably have to continue doing what I do for my entire life if I want my health to stay the way that it is, but it's worth it. Now, I would love to hear comments, feedback. Do you have a favorite quote? Do you have something like, it's like, yes, that really, really gets you fired up? I would love to see it because I love, love, love quotes. I love words. I love wisdom from other people because these came from people's experience. Somebody else out there had to write that. They had to feel it, which means we're not alone. Until next week, take care.